Okay. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this mobility session here at the Smart City and Smart Mobility Congress, where we are going to talk and try to advance towards what the mobility of the future is going to be. First of all, some public announcements or advices. Please, those of you who have not already done that, download the app. So you'll be able to make this session interactive and ask all those questions, especially the tricky ones that you are too shy to pronounce in public. You can do them through the app. So please download the app and be active on asking our speakers. They will introduce you later, whatever thoughts come to your mind upon listening them. I wanted also to thank both Fira de Barcelona and UITP for arranging this panel of speakers and allowing me to introduce them. Here I'm just a humble moderator chairing this session, so they are the ones that are going to give you the bright and interesting ideas to get home. So thank you, and thank you for being here. You have already experienced some smart and healthy mobility coming from the Congress area here. It's a nice walk through the exhibition area. And that's also what's about the mobility of the future. We want to have livable cities with healthy citizens, which are efficient from the economic point of view, but also sustainable and also great places to live in. And mobility plays a crucial role in this. We are not going to be able to produce these living areas, these neighborhoods, these cities effectively if we do not provide mobility solutions for our citizens, for our neighbors. And that's what this is all about today. We are going to speak about the way we move and how we customize the way we move in the future. And that's a matter of governance to some extent. So we are going to have two high-level speakers now, Mr. Ricard and Brandy Brown. They are going to present us from their different points of view how this future is shaped through smart mobility, through smart companies, and through smart governance. So, without further introduction, I think it's time for them to get the floor. So let me introduce you your first speaker this afternoon, Mr. Ricard Font. Ricard Font is currently the president of FGC, Ferrocarrils de la Generalitat de Catalunya, a regional railways company who goes far beyond railways. It operates not only railways, but also tourist services, ski stations, and different mobility solutions all around the region of Catalonia. But it's an ambitious company. He's going to explain what's in his mind, how it's going to develop. Not only that, Mr. Ricard Font, well, it's the former Secretary of Transport of the Regional Government of Catalonia and has a long career being involved in different companies linked to mobility and infrastructures, and also has experience with his degree on law and work as a law official on the mobility and urbanism sectors. So please, Mr. Font, the stage is yours.
Gracias. Muy bien. Me pedía Carlas Casas que hiciese una pequeña ponencia hablando un poco de uno de los retos fundamentales que en este momento estamos intentando acometer desde una pequeña empresa, Ferrocarrils de la Generalitat, que si me permiten, les daré un poco una pequeña visión de lo que representa Ferrocarrils de la Generalitat. Ferrocarrils es una empresa que nació de la suma de muchas empresas centenarias. De hecho, el segundo metro de Europa es un metro que tiene su origen en Sarriá y va hasta Barcelona, hasta el centro de Barcelona, con lo cual somos una empresa que tenemos una historia de 150 años. Pero como empresa y como suma de empresas, hace unos 40 años que somos una realidad. Movemos alrededor de unos 80 millones de viajes, 90 millones de viajes al año, unos 1.500 trabajadores, y somos una empresa que, como decía Carlas, aparte de hacer lo más clásico que es mover personas por ferrocarril, movemos personas en las montañas que realizan deportes de invierno, esquí y otros deportes de invierno en las montañas. Pero básicamente nuestro core business sería, evidentemente, lo que serían las operaciones ferroviarias y la movilidad. Hace aproximadamente, como decía Carlas, yo era el secretario de Infraestructuras del Gobierno de Cataluña, estaba allí 8 años por cierto, con Julio Gómez Pomar, que era el secretario de Estado de Infraestructuras y presidente de Renfe en su momento, que después va a intervenir. Y en su momento, cuando afronté el reto de ser presidente de Ferrocarrils de la Generalitat, aproximadamente hace unos 4 meses, uno de los primeros elementos que pusimos encima de la mesa es la necesidad imperiosa de una transformación de lo que es una empresa ferroviaria, una empresa que como principal atributo es seguramente su fiabilidad. Es decir, nos podemos dedicar a filosofar sobre movilidad porque es una empresa que tiene un 99% de puntualidad. O sea, nuestros clientes saben que somos una empresa con credibilidad y con fiabilidad y por eso podemos empezar a pensar cómo queremos ser en el futuro. ¿Qué estrategia estamos siguiendo, ¿no? Seguramente una de las estrategias principales es dejar de ser una empresa ferroviaria al uso, que yo diría que movemos gente o personas de estación a estación, para transformarnos en una empresa que como mentalidad tenemos que pensar en que hemos de mover personas de punto a punto. Como diríamos, desde su casa hasta su trabajo, desde su casa hasta la universidad, desde la universidad a un sitio básicamente lúdico. Por tanto, hemos de tener la capacidad de poder ofrecer de manera creíble, con credibilidad, una oferta de movilidad. Hemos de ser capaces de ser prestadores de servicios de movilidad para el conjunto de la población, en este sentido de Cataluña, pero también desde un punto de vista de que podemos proveer movilidad no solamente como empresa principal, sino que también hemos de ver que tenemos otras empresas con las cuales tenemos que colaborar desde el punto de vista de lo que sería la movilidad. Por tanto, estamos planteando un cambio, una estrategia que nos lleve a un cambio desde el punto de vista de cómo entendemos hoy la movilidad, pero también cómo entendemos la propia empresa, ¿no? Yo me apuntaba algunos elementos que creo que tienen que ver también con lo que tenemos que pensar. Cuando uno piensa en los retos principales, no solamente en los retos como proveedores de movilidad que tenemos como empresa en este momento, nos viene a la cabeza seguramente 3 grandes cambios que tenemos que afrontar como empresa y asumirlos como propios. El primero es el cambio climático. El cambio climático y la mejora de la calidad del aire de los entornos metropolitanos. Barcelona y su entorno metropolitano, 40 municipios, es una de las regiones con mayor contaminación y con mayor polución del conjunto de Europa, y para afrontar este reto, seguramente un elemento fundamental es cómo podemos proveer de movilidad limpia que nos permita mejorar este entorno de polución. Y este entorno de polución, a su vez, también colaborará seguramente en una lucha más global, que es la lucha contra el cambio climático. El segundo gran cambio es el cambio tecnológico, que define en gran parte también esta estrategia de transformación de la empresa. Seguramente estamos pasando de ser una empresa analógica, en el sentido menos peyorativo del término, para ser una empresa tecnológica y para ser una empresa digitalizada. Eso tiene muchos efectos que hablaremos más tarde, pero seguramente este es el segundo gran cambio. Y el tercer gran cambio que hemos de poder afrontar es la globalización como una manera de entender también nuestra movilidad. No solamente tenemos que pensar cómo mover a nuestros clientes o nuestros usuarios entre Terrassa o Sabadell, entre 2 municipios alrededor de Barcelona, o entre Martorell y Barcelona, que son puntos o estaciones de nuestras líneas ferroviarias, sino pensar que estas personas pueden salir de Terrassa a una hora y tener que llegar a Los Ángeles a otra hora. O tienen que salir de Sabadell a una hora y llegar a Shanghai o a Hong Kong en otra. Por tanto, hemos de pensar también en que su movilidad no solamente es la movilidad punto a punto o de ciudad a ciudad dentro de nuestro propio ámbito propio territorial, sino que tenemos que pensar en una movilidad que va más allá de lo que es la propia que tienen que tener, digamos, los commuters o los que utilizan el día a día también en la movilidad. Entonces son cambios que hemos de tener que afrontar y tenemos que asumir también en esta estrategia de cambio. Pero seguramente, como decía antes, en el cambio de empresa ferroviaria a empresa movilidad, seguramente está la parte o el elemento fundamental de nuestra propia estrategia de cara al futuro. Y aquí es donde nosotros hemos de ver cómo afrontamos esta experiencia de cambio, porque en el fondo es una experiencia de cambio que afecta a los directivos de la empresa, que afecta a la propia empresa, pero que va a tener un efecto en el conjunto de la empresa. Yo siempre planteo un reto, que cuando lo planteo siempre pienso que lo hemos de afrontar en positivo, que es que, por ejemplo, nosotros que también estamos poniendo en marcha seguramente la línea de metro de las más innovadoras del conjunto de Europa, absolutamente automatizada. Eso significa, por ejemplo, que en el futuro pues no vamos a tener que tener un modelo diferente de cómo pensamos que van a ser nuestros maquinistas, ¿no? Si vamos hacia una conducción automática, por ejemplo, desde el punto de vista de la base de la empresa, pues seguramente los que hoy son conductores de trenes, dentro de 10, 20, 15 años, no lo sabemos, pues seguramente van a tener que hacer otras cosas. Reto que la empresa tiene que afrontar, seguramente no en el corto plazo, pero sí que en el medio y en el largo plazo. Lo hicimos en un momento dado, dejaron de haber personas que en una taquilla vendían billetes para que esta gente, en lugar de hacer este trabajo, hacían otro trabajo que era el hecho de atender las propias estaciones. Pues este cambio en el modelo de la propia empresa, que tuvo su efecto cuando hablábamos del cambio en lo que sería el billetaje, por ejemplo, lo va a tener en el conjunto de la empresa. ¿Y cuáles son nuestros referentes? Porque, como tengo 15 minutos, ¿cuáles son nuestros referentes? ¿Dónde tenemos que mirar para ver cómo podemos hacer este cambio en la empresa, este cambio de mentalidad, este cambio en la dirección, este cambio en la orientación de la empresa y este cambio también de cómo nos vamos a dirigir también a nuestros usuarios, a nuestros clientes? Nosotros ponemos 4 ejemplos, en este sentido. 4 ejemplos de 4 empresas, algunos directivos de la empresa ya me lo han oído muchas veces, que nos sirven para explicar cómo lo vemos, ¿no? Y son 4 empresas. Una se llama Google, otra se llama Amazon, otra se llama Apple y otra se llama Facebook, ¿no? Y solo pongo como ejemplo a los propios directivos de la empresa de cómo tenemos que afrontar este cambio. ¿Por qué hablamos de Google? Porque seguramente Google, en este momento, Google es Dios. No sé si lo saben ustedes, pues Google es Dios, lo sabe todo de nosotros, lo saben todos ustedes, más que sus propias familias. Y por donde nosotros hemos de aspirar a tener una relación con nuestros clientes, con nuestros usuarios, en los cuales nosotros lo sepamos casi todo de ellos, pero no para saber nosotros, no para tener información nosotros, sino para poder ofrecerles el mejor servicio. Hemos de saber si viajan o no viajan, si necesitan, si vuelan o si no vuelan, si dónde van, a dónde van, si cuándo van, si cómo se comportan, para poder ofrecerles servicios, no para saber su intimidad, evidentemente, pero sí que hemos de saberlo casi todo. Por lo tanto, nuestra relación con nuestros clientes hemos de ver en Google, por ejemplo, un referente. Otro elemento es Amazon, ¿no? Amazon, ¿qué hace, básicamente? Otras empresas, nos llevan aquello que queremos, en el momento que queremos, cuando queremos y al menor precio. Nosotros hemos también de tener que ofrecer a nuestros clientes poderse mover cuando quieren, en el momento que quieren y de la manera más como consideren oportuno y al menor precio posible. Y si me permiten el paréntesis, seguramente también nosotros en el futuro hemos de pensar también que delante del reto o ante el reto de lo que va a ser el comercio electrónico, hoy en un 7-8% de la cuota de mercado, cuando llegue al 50 o al 60%, hemos de ver cómo también nosotros podemos ser proveedores de cómo introducir esta paquetería, este comercio electrónico en las grandes ciudades a través de nuestras redes de ferroviarias en este sentido. Por lo tanto, también tenemos que aprender sobre esto. Cuando hablamos de Facebook es porque creo que nosotros hemos también de afrontar que cuando queremos atraer a nuevos clientes de movilidad, hemos de saber cuáles son sus comportamientos. Pongo un ejemplo muy evidente. Nosotros en un corredor competimos con la carretera. La autopista, la C58, una autopista, y nosotros tenemos nuestro sistema ferroviario que compite, incluso nuestros túneles son paralelos, a ver si podemos nosotros captar más pasajeros. Nosotros hemos de saber qué siente y qué piensa y cómo se comporta y cuáles son sus experiencias con la autopista para podernos dirigir a estas personas para decirles que su experiencia más sostenible a través del transporte público puede ser mejor para ellos, ¿no? Y por lo tanto nosotros también tenemos que conocer desde el punto de vista no solamente a nuestros clientes, sino al comportamiento general de usuarios de la movilidad para podernos dirigir a ellos, para hacerles una oferta desde el punto de vista para que se pasen al transporte público con aquel objetivo último de mejorar la movilidad, de hacer una movilidad más verde. Y finalmente tenemos a Apple, ¿no? Apple que nos enseña sobre todo que nosotros hemos de querer buscar siempre un servicio que, aunque sea el mejor precio o no, sea un servicio de gran calidad, digamos un servicio premium. Aunque estemos haciendo movilidad del día a día, aunque estemos haciendo movilidad dirigida pues, a personas que cada día son commuters diarios. A veces las compañías de servicio público hemos olvidado que aunque sean antes eran, digamos, usuarios captivos, o sea, o acogían nuestro transporte público o nuestro servicio o no podían escoger otro servicio. Hoy hemos de pensar que tienen mucha oferta variada y por lo tanto nosotros tenemos que ofrecerle también un servicio premium, aunque sea de servicio de transporte público de metro, aunque sea de servicio público de proximidad. Siempre pensamos en la calidad para los servicios premium de larga distancia, pero también para la corta distancia. Y finalmente nosotros también tenemos que pensar en que en nuestra oferta de transporte público también tendrá que incorporar una nueva experiencia desde el punto de vista de la movilidad, ¿no? Se habla mucho de la movilidad también como una experiencia, ¿no? Y creo que aquí también tenemos mucho camino por recorrer, ¿no? Seguramente si pensamos en el tiempo de viaje que nuestros usuarios están en el tren o están en la estación desde que salen de casa, seguramente donde tenemos mucho que mejorar es en los tiempos de espera. Cómo la gente pues, pasa sus minutos en nuestras estaciones, sus minutos o sus horas a veces dentro de nuestros trenes, y aquí hay un camino muy grande para recorrer y una oferta de servicios muy grande para ofrecer. Y aquí seguramente es donde está el aspecto, si me permiten, más siguiendo un poco el guión también de este congreso, el aspecto más disruptivo, ¿no? Ahí es donde podemos ofrecer cosas a nuestros clientes usuarios más diversas, desde ofrecerles jugar en nuestros trenes a sus juegos favoritos, a competir en nuestros trenes con sus juegos favoritos, como ejemplo más disruptivo. Por eso. Pero aquí hay un camino muy amplio para recorrer. Y aquí es donde tenemos que poner la mirada, ¿no? En Barcelona, y con esto acabaré, en Barcelona tenemos la suerte, en Cataluña tenemos la suerte, que pasan cuatro cosas que son muy disruptivas, en donde tenemos que poner también nuestro objetivo, hemos de poner nuestra mirada, ¿no? Que es, por ejemplo, en el sonar, ¿no? En la música avanzada, ¿no? En saber transformar simplemente escuchar música en alguna cosa más, ¿no? Y aquí es donde podemos encontrar ideas también en que la experiencia en nuestros trenes sea alguna cosa más que estar sentado en un tren, a veces chateando con algún amigo o simplemente leyendo un libro a través de nuestro iPhone. Segunda cosa que pasa es el World Mobile Congress, lógicamente. Por lo tanto, aquí tenemos la innovación principal en movilidad, la innovación principal en lo que sería la telefonía móvil, con lo cual aquí también tenemos una experiencia donde tenemos que poner la mirada. La Smart City Congress o la Smart Mobility Congress, que por ejemplo aquí también nos tiene que dar una oportunidad para ver. Y otro elemento importante es también en ver hacia dónde va el pensamiento del conjunto de nuestro mundo, ¿no? Y aquí nuestra mirada global también es importante que la afrontemos. Aunque seamos una empresa ferroviaria, hemos de poner nuestra mirada también en cuáles son las innovaciones desde el punto de vista del pensamiento para poderlas incorporar en algo tan fácil o tan difícil de cometer, que es la experiencia de nuestro usuario. En esto estamos poniendo nuestro acento, en transformar una empresa de movilidad en una empresa de trenes o de transporte público en una empresa de movilidad, en una empresa que hoy dirían de Mobility as a Service, o sea, una empresa que tiene la movilidad como servicio a nuestra comunidad. Y por otro lado, también tenemos puesta nuestra mirada en la experiencia, sobre todo, de nuestro cliente usuario, para dejar de ser simplemente proveedores de transporte público, para ser proveedores de una movilidad que sea una experiencia saludable para nuestros usuarios, que les atraiga de la movilidad, digamos, más sucia, de la movilidad del vehículo privado, pero que lo haga desde un punto de vista también diverso, desde un punto de vista disruptivo y desde un punto de que sea un atractivo también para lo que es nuestros usuarios. Les hemos de atraer porque su experiencia en el transporte sea pues, una experiencia, como decía, atractiva y en la cual, aparte de moverse de un punto a otro, también puedan realizar diversas actividades relacionadas con su profesión, con sus principales necesidades, y en este sentido es esta visión grande. Es difícil a veces afrontar este reto desde la posición, y con esto acabo, a veces es difícil desde una empresa, repito, ferroviaria que tiene su principal objetivo en la seguridad, en el rigor, en la puntualidad, en ser perfectos, porque ser disruptivos y afrontar los cambios a veces quiere decir no tener miedo al fracaso, no tener miedo al error. Y en una empresa ferroviaria eso es difícil. Pero creo que con el equipo directivo vamos a afrontar este reto que sobre todo nos obliga a hacer una mirada muy clara en cómo creemos que va a ser la movilidad, no en un futuro muy lejano, porque los cambios acelerados que estamos viendo en este momento hace que los cambios sean prácticamente inmediatos y que las innovaciones de hoy prácticamente son cosas del pasado mañana. Y por eso necesitamos también que una de las partes más importantes que creo que hemos de acometer, que es el cambio mental en las organizaciones, también es una de las partes importantes que queremos acometer. Carlas, con esto acabo, soy rápido.
Thank you very much, Mr. Font. It's still surprising to see railway companies thinking out of the box, because they usually are these 19th century dinosaurs that survived the 20th century, but they are not so often, or as often as they should, thinking beyond their usual business. And now we are moving to the next speaker. She's going to introduce us from a different perspective how smart mobility is being developed in a city, the importance of data into this development of the smart mobility, and the whole project, which is called Smart Columbus Operation System. Excuse me. So I think it's going to provide us with several examples and lessons that they have already learned in this process, and that probably many cities can learn about their experience. So please welcome on the stage Ms. Brandy Brown from Columbus, Ohio.
Great. Thank you so much, and thank you for being here today. I'm honored to be here on behalf of the City of Columbus to share a little bit about what we're doing on our smart city journey, but more importantly, my focus today is going to be on what serves as the backbone for how we're going about reinventing transportation in the Columbus region. And we're doing that very much from a public-private partnership perspective. It's being done in a collaborative, partnership-based, open way throughout the region. Our smart city journey began in 2015 when the United States Department of Transportation issued the Smart City Challenge, where they issued mid-sized cities across the country to come up with their most innovative ways on how they would demonstrate new and emerging smart city technologies in a way that would improve the quality of life for their residents. That challenge really got us off the mark in terms of thinking about what is our strategic framework as we approach our smart city journey. I'll start off by talking about what we call our guiding principle, and that's the fact that our mayor believes that mobility is the great equalizer of the 21st century. Columbus is the 14th largest city in the United States, and we're facing major challenges around poverty, unemployment, drug addiction, and infant mortality. And when you look at what the solutions to all of those challenges are, they have a common theme, and that's equitable access to transportation. So that is really the guiding principle that's guiding our work on a day-to-day basis. To that end, our vision is to empower our residents to live their best lives through responsive and innovative resident-centric mobility solutions. Our mission is to demonstrate how an intelligent transportation system and the concept of equitable access to transportation can help improve and solve challenges in our city, and share those learnings with cities not just across the country, but across the globe as well. So how are we going about executing on that strategy? As part of the Smart City Challenge grant that we were awarded in 2016, we have 9 distinct projects that we're working on implementing. We're about 2 years into our 4-year grant process, and we're on the verge of starting to roll out each of these demonstration projects, and then we're committed to a year of data collection and reporting for each one. You'll see that the projects are broken into 3 primary categories: enabling technologies, enhanced human services, and emerging technologies. I don't have the time today to focus on each of these projects, but I'm happy afterwards or during the Q&A session to talk about some of them. Just as an example, though, under enabling technologies, we will be demonstrating a connected vehicle environment in some of our intersections and corridors that have higher than normal crash data. In enhanced human services, we're going to be piloting an on-demand transportation system that will get expectant mothers that are on government aid to their doctor's offices, and on an easy, flexible, reliable manner. And then in emerging technologies, we'll be deploying a series of self-driving shuttles, but very much in the focus on learning how they can help us solve the first mile, last mile challenge. We want to learn how we can use self-driving vehicle to help make our public transit system more robust and to connect people to services and opportunities. Now, all of the 8 projects that are in the 3 categories are rooted in an integrated, holistic approach to data. That is really a core principle to any smart city strategy, as all of you in this room already know. And so that is now the focus of what I'm going to be talking about, because we really call it the backbone of our smart city portfolio. And we call it the Smart Columbus Operating System. So the operating system is a platform that's being designed to capture data, provide means for aggregation, fusion, and analytics. It's being designed with open source software for scalability and replicability purposes. And it's being designed to interface with big data and artificial intelligence. Right now, the inputs that are in the operating system, and I'm proud to say we've already launched the first iteration of it, and it will continue to be built upon for the next 2 years. Right now, there's about 1,100 data feeds in the operating system. They're all right now from public sources, because that's the data that's most easily identifiable and that we can bring into the operating system. But we're building it in a way so that it will scale. Our vision is for the Smart Columbus Operating System to be an open data portal for the entire region. Little bit of a deeper dive. It's being built so that it has real-time data streaming, which we just recently hit this milestone. It was a big milestone for us to be bringing in real-time data. And in fact, we partnered with, we don't have rail in Columbus, but we do have a pretty robust transit system. So the first real-time data feed that we brought in was from the Central Ohio Transit Authority. So if you log on to our operating system, you can see the real-time location of all of the buses in Columbus. Also visualization and a microservices layer. So we will be able to house applications on the Smart Columbus operating system. So I talked earlier about how we're approaching this very much from a public-private partnership aspect and working to engage the community. And when I say the community, there are so many various audiences involved in that. So as we engage the community, especially the tech community, the developer community, actually the end users of the operating system and the data, we talk a lot about yes and. The yes is our first priority is to deliver on the 9 grant projects that we have received the $40 million of funding for. And each of those projects requires the operating system to ingest and disseminate data. But then there's the and. And the and is quite frankly an infinite number of possibilities of how this data could be used for our community to learn, to innovate, to collaborate, and to solve problems. We want to create an ecosystem of innovation where we have startups, individuals, entrepreneurs using this data to learn and solve for problems and create solutions that I quite frankly can't even think of today. So how are we doing that? We're doing that through what we call a data technical working group. And this group has been formed for about a year and a half. We have over 125 professionals that are experts in their industry, and they represent the private sector, the public sector, universities, the nonprofit sector, and they're all helping advise the City of Columbus on how we build, maintain, sustain, and govern the operating system. And this level of expertise knowledge is so important. No one has all the answers to the work that we're trying to do right now, and so to bring together these cross-functional, cross-sector groups to help ideate and create those solutions for us. Those 125 people, give or take, are broken up into 3 different tracks, each focusing on a different aspect of the operating system. The first being user stories. So I talked about the fact that the operating system first is being built to help sustain and manage those 8 grant projects, but it's important that we're thinking about the operating system and building it in a way that is prepared for the other data stories that we want to be curating and bringing in. And that, again, comes from not just public sectors, but private, academic, nonprofit, et cetera. The second work group is technical. That group is advising on the actual design and building of the operating system, including data security and data management. We're in the process of refining our 3rd iteration of both our data management and data security plans that are fundamental to the successful implementation and management of the operating system. And last but not least is policy. We need help defining how the operating system is going to be governed and what the policies are today, but also what are the policies into the future. If we're really creating a robust open data portal that is going to serve more than just the public sector, that's going to require a level of governance and rules and policies that we have never dealt with before. And so we have a group specifically focused on the policy aspect. So we're working to engage, through that user group, representatives from the public, private, academic, and nonprofit sector. And so while we're very much focused, again, on those 9 grant projects I showed you, we're also talking about what else is there. What are the other challenges our community is facing that we could use the data and private sector resources to help solve? And so there's 2 examples that are being championed right now by major companies in the Columbus area. One is about developing an application or system to help families that need access to food pantries, that access to know on demand where the food pantries are, what the hours are, what resources you can garner there. And then second is to develop a mobility solution for our older adults in the community, Columbus region. And again, we hope this "and" piece continues to grow and develop as we engage cross sectors and cross functions. That's my contact information. That's how you can sign up to learn more about Smart Columbus, our website, my personal Twitter handle. I want to wrap, I think I'm still okay on time, with 4 lessons learned. I did some reflecting on what would I share with the city or community that's working on similar work. And as I reflected on these 4 lessons, I thought, well, these really sound like common sense, but quite frankly, they're things that we're still working on, so I feel like they're worth sharing and putting out there. The first is being thoughtful about the team that you're putting together to implement your smart city strategy, whatever that may mean for you, whether it's mobility or the more technical data side. That ensuring that you are hiring and training people that not have only the technical skill, but also the capacity to do the work. Secondly, engage cross-sectors early in the process, in the ideation phase. We did that at the City of Columbus when we applied for the Smart City Challenge grant. We brought the public sector, the private sector, the academic sector together to help us brainstorm and ideate around what do we want to put in our application. And those sectors have been with us along every step of the way as we plan, design, and implement. Now, make no mistake about it, if any of you have worked in public-private partnerships before, that is hard work and it slows things down, no doubt about it. But it creates a greater level of buy-in and collaboration, and I think your end product that you produce, having all those sectors represented, is even stronger. Third, governance matters. Think early about how you're going to make decisions and make sure you communicate that with all the people involved so that it's as transparent as possible. And last but not least, communicate early and often to all of your stakeholders and find ways to talk about what you're doing in a way, in a story that resonates with people. And that is my talk for today.
Thank you very much. Please stay on the stage that we are going to have the Q&A and invite Mr. Font. Thank you very much for this speech and this lesson, especially these 4 final lessons that we are going to bring with us. Many times when we have the right answers or the smart answers to some issues, they are quite obvious in the end, but the difficulty is to get them. And it's that feeling that, oh, why didn't they thought about that before? Because it's obvious once you have the answer, but it's not obvious before. You have to know a lot. And we had 2, I want to thank again the 2 speakers. We had 2 different visions on how from public sector entities we can advance into the future and develop systems for the mobility of the future. I give you these last seconds just to write your Q&As on the tablets and your phones. If you have any additional question, please just stand up. Just to warm up, both of you mentioned in your interventions last mile. Last mile issue, both for a railway company which produces mass transit but then has to think about origin and destination. You also mentioned Hong Kong and Los Angeles or Singapore. Let's not go, that's not last mile, but last mile solutions. We are seeing all around here in the expo many last mile solutions. How do we integrate them from the governance point of view, from the company's point of view? Could you please share a little bit about what do you think about these new mobility services or mobility even devices that we are experiencing around us?
Well, so in Columbus, we're trying to be as open-minded as possible when it comes to new mobility solutions. So everything from self-driving vehicles to bike share to ensuring that we continue to build out our robust trail network. I will say that we've had dockless bikes and the e-scooters come to our region, and that was interesting because there were different perspectives from the public sector and the private sector and the academic sector about how we should handle the scooters, a lot of different varying viewpoints. I think we have, the approach we are at right now is that we're taking a middle-of-the-road approach. We want to welcome the e-scooters because we believe there's a chance that they could help solve the first mile, last mile challenge and help connect our residents to services and opportunities. But there's still a huge public education and information piece about where the scooters can be left and how fast you're supposed to ride them and where can you ride them and to slow down and obey traffic laws. I think one of the things that we've done from a regulatory perspective is we require the mobility service providers to share data with us into the operating system. And so as part of that, we'll be able to learn, are these scooters and other devices helping solve true mobility solutions in the city of Columbus, or are they a novelty? Either one of those have their pros and cons, but I think the story will be in the data and the details and how it's being used.
Yo creo que en mi primera intervención yo creo que no he explicado, porque con 15 minutos tienes poco tiempo para explicar todo lo que significa este cambio que estamos afrontando, que es también la colaboración público-privada en la prestación de servicios. Y por tanto, cuando hablaba de lo importante es de la integración en plataformas únicas de todo el conjunto de lo que son los diferentes servicios de movilidad de manera integrados. Y va desde un posible vuelo hasta Los Ángeles o hasta Hong Kong o hasta Shanghai o hasta Madrid o hasta París o hasta Londres, hasta incluyendo también pues, el aparcamiento, el alquiler de un vehículo para transportarnos, de un vehículo, de un coche, o bien el pagar un aparcamiento, en pagar una tasa, por ejemplo, como la concession charge en Londres, o el peaje para utilizar una vía de alta capacidad, o incluso hasta el patinete o la bicicleta eléctrica que nos pueda llevar de punto a punto, ¿no? La integración, el problema principal yo creo que es que sean operadores públicos o sean operadores privados, hoy la tecnología nos permite la gran integración de todos los servicios, que nos permite la interacción entre los clientes, entre los usuarios de movilidad. Y nos tenemos que poner de acuerdo todos para poder integrar en una sola plataforma todos estos elementos de movilidad, en una sola plataforma. Si no lo hacemos los operadores, tranquilos que habrá una plataforma que lo hará por nosotros. Pero seguro que esto va a ser, primero, una oportunidad y segundo, un filo de negocio para una empresa pública o privada, seguramente privada en el futuro.
Gracias. Is there any question from the floor? Someone who wants to stand up and ask a question, or I'll go to those that have been made through the app. One question for Ms. Brown. You mentioned the prenatal trip assistance.
Yes.
Someone's curious about
yes,
what does that
more details
mean?
about that? Oh, yeah, sure. Thank you for asking that question. So in the city of Columbus, we have one of the highest infant mortality rates in the country. So that we measure that by a baby not making it to its first birthday. And so there's a nonprofit that's been formed to help engage, again, public-private sectors and raise money to help solve this problem in our city. And through our engagement with them around smart mobility, we learned that one of the biggest barriers to expectant mothers on Medicaid not making it to their doctor's appointments is not having access to reliable, flexible round-trip transportation. So what we're working to do is to deploy a smart city solution in a way that will do just that, which will give these mothers flexible, reliable, round-trip, on-demand transportation that will work in their lives and connect them to their doctor's offices. We are working closely with The Ohio State University on many of our projects, but especially this one, because it's very much a project rooted in research, and the data that we'll be able to collect from this year-long pilot will help spur other innovative solutions to the challenges that these neighborhoods are facing, because the neighborhoods that are facing high infant mortality rates also have high unemployment, high poverty, and other challenges and issues.
Okay, it's quite interesting, really.
Thanks.
Surprisingly, from the title, we could not
Yes,
say that.
thank you.
Probably.
Punto.
Yeah. So, a question for Mr. Font is how and which partners are you looking for to achieve these objectives? ¿Cómo y con qué socios plantea usted estos retos objetivos?
En principio, nuestros partners principales tendrían que ser nuestros compañeros prestadores de servicios de transporte público en una primera etapa, sin ninguna duda, ¿no? Renfe, transporte metro de Barcelona, etcétera, etcétera. Pero en una muy primerísima etapa. Pero nuestros partners para la transformación son las escuelas de negocios de Barcelona, las universidades de Barcelona, por ejemplo, y en segundo término, las empresas tecnológicas que pueden prestarnos estas soluciones para poder, sobre todo, afrontar el reto de la digitalización de los transportes. Estas plataformas que decíamos integradoras. Y por otro lado también nuestros partners pueden ser, hoy mismo, las empresas de alquiler de bicicletas eléctricas o, por ejemplo, nuestros partners pueden ser las empresas que van a distribuir comercio electrónico alrededor de las principales ciudades, ¿no? Porque al final también un reto es que convertir nuestras estaciones de tren en con cajas de movilidad, cajas de servicios o entornos de servicios para nuestros barrios y para nuestros vecinos, en este sentido, ¿no? Es decir, una ventaja muy importante, como decía antes, es que nosotros hemos de ofrecer, sobre todo, algo que es intangible, que es credibilidad, ¿no? Si nosotros tenemos un entorno que es seguro, que es amable y donde pueden pasar cosas, vamos a ser amigos de nuestros vecinos. Y nuestros vecinos van a ser nuestros primeros usuarios o clientes de movilidad, pero también de muchas otras cosas, ¿no? Por tanto, el cambio a la que tenemos que afrontar desde el punto de vista de cómo colaborar con nuestros entornos urbanos llega al extremo de que nuestros colaboradores pueden ser una escuela de negocios, pero también puede ser una asociación de vecinos alrededor de una estación de metro.
Muy amplio. Well, another question you mentioned, and it was discussed today in the morning session in this Smart Mobility Congress about the connected and autonomous vehicles. And you mentioned one of the projects to develop this kind of vehicle and service in your city. And when it comes to this point, regulation, it's a new field. So regulations we are lacking regulations to adapt to this new kind of transport. It was discussed this morning. We saw experiences also of autonomous buses here in Spain. So which do you think it should be the role of cities establishing these regulations? Should cities wait for state regulations, for industry standards, for whatever ethical standards around the globe? Or do cities have really a role to play and beyond the experimental stage that we are now?
Well, first and foremost, I think cities have a duty to their residents. Cities are really where the rubber meets the road. I've spent 16 years in both state and local government, and I think cities, being so close to the people that they serve, understand what the challenges are and have a duty to identify solutions to those challenges, and self-driving vehicles may be part of that. However, I think it's smart to go about it in a collaborative way, and that it's important that there's a statewide approach, a more regional approach into how you're developing infrastructure and standards for how everything from connected vehicles to autonomous vehicles will work. We are lucky in the state of Ohio where our governor issued an executive order mandating that all public roads be open to connected and self-driving vehicle technology as long as you meet a number of really common sense criterion. So we have a strong alliance both in the city of Columbus but also throughout the states, and are working together to share and collaborate.
Yeah. Mr. Font wanted to add.
No, yo creo que la innovación no nace con una ley, conjuntamente con una ley para poder regularla. La regulación y la innovación no van de la mano. Primero hay la innovación y al cabo de muchos años hay la regulación. Y pongo un ejemplo de movilidad, ¿no? Cuando en finales del siglo XIX, principios del XX, empezaron a haber coches, la legislación de circulación que hoy tenemos no existía, y seguramente aquellos coches iban matando, iban teniendo accidentes diversos, y que no había una regulación en ese momento ni de cómo había de ser el coche, ni de cómo se había de conducir, ni de cómo se había de regular, y fuimos aprendiendo hasta llegar al punto de que algunas de las últimas innovaciones, por ejemplo ponerse el cinturón de seguridad o llevar un casco, son regulaciones que llegaron hace relativamente poco, 10, 15 años. Por lo tanto, lo que no tenemos que tener es miedo a la innovación, pero también saber que la innovación va a traer conflictos, ¿no? Hoy en Barcelona está lleno de patinetes, está apareciendo todo el mundo con patinetes y todo el mundo está pensando, bueno, vamos a tener que regularlo. Bueno, sí, seguro, pero esto va a llegar. Pero seguramente no podemos frenar la innovación esperando la legislación. Llegará la legislación. Lo hará el Estado, la ciudad, la región, quien sea, la Unión Europea, quien sea. Pero eso es nato con la innovación. Por lo tanto, no hemos de tener miedo, hemos de intentar que no pase lo menos posible, pero yo creo que en movilidad, por ejemplo, le está pasando en otro elemento mucho más complejo, que es en todo lo que está siendo la introducción de las nuevas plataformas de intermediación, por ejemplo, en el tema del taxi o en el tema de los apartamentos turísticos, etcétera, etcétera. Eso está, vamos a legislarlo, seguro que va a tener que regularse, y eso es innovación, pero no va a llegar a asumir, como tampoco llegó en su momento, nunca ha llegado la legislación antes que la innovación, y tampoco llega conjuntamente con la innovación.
Okay, before finishing and going for the coffee break, let me come back to public transport, because automated vehicles or connected vehicles are just vehicles in the end, and we are thinking about public transport. And one last question that was made for both of you is about, we have been speaking a lot about data and integrating this data to provide a good service. Who should play the role of data integrator in your experience? Should be a conglomerate of public and private sector, or it should be on the hands of just a private company or just a public entity that manages it from a global perspective, which is
lo que quieran los clientes. Los clientes van a fijar, los usuarios van a fijar las reglas del juego a través de cómo cómo usan estas plataformas, cómo usan estos integradores desde el punto de vista de sus necesidades. Y el campo es más abierto que nunca, y el que va a ser, seguramente nosotros vamos a tener que estar muy atentos, por eso decía la importancia de poner la atención en lo que pasa, en cómo viven sus experiencias los clientes, porque no sabemos si al final, como decía, como broma, si nuestros integradores de servicios van a incluir los servicios de gaming para que nuestros clientes jueguen dentro de nuestros trenes.
Se plantea que in the future there can be more than one integrator in the same city competing for clients to use their integrator to have transport as just one of the services available. That's a possibility.
Es posible.
Yeah. Well, that's a great question, because it's something that we're grappling with right now. As we build the Smart Columbus operating system, it's housed publicly right now, but for it to achieve its vision of being a true open data platform for the entire region, private sector companies are not going to want to put their data into a public platform that's open to open records and public record laws. So we're working right now to identify a sustainability plan for the operating system. Not only how can the data possibly be monetized to sustain the operation, but where should it live? Right now, our gut tells us that it needs to live in a non-governmental organization, a nonprofit, whether it's one that's already existing that has that skill set in that capacity, or is it a new one that's focusing on data management and smart mobility for the region? We don't know. Maybe I'll be back next year to talk about where we landed.
It would be great to hear about that. We are just running out of time, so once again, thank you very much to Mr. Font for being here. Please give a last round of applause to our speakers, and we will be back for the debate in the second part of the session. Thank you. Welcome back to this second part of the session. I'm just here to introduce Mr. Julio Gomez Pomar. In fact, Mr. Font before already made an introduction of Mr. Pomar. Just to remind you, he's the chairman of the Center for Transport Economics and Infrastructure Management at the IE Business School. And previously, he's been involved in many high-level positions on transports linked to both infrastructure management and operations in Renfe, as Mr. Font said before. So I leave the floor to Mr. Pomar that will introduce this very interesting panel, very diverse, that will bring us bright and new ideas. So please go ahead, Mr. Pomar.
Thank you, Carles, and good afternoon to all of you. My role here is a very easy one. That is just to moderate and to introduce different speakers that are with us this afternoon. Let me just make some comments in order to try to frame this big issue of mobility. Well, first of all, it is true that cities, no matter the size, are all of them facing increasing problems of mobility. But at the same time, and we will see this afternoon, size matters, and not all the cities are the same. It's not the same a large city, a giant city, or a small or medium-sized city. It's not the same a 20 million people city that a 500,000 mid-Europe city, and we will look at this in the presentations. Another important issue, in my view, is the pattern of behavior in citizens. There are very different ways of behaving for the people, depending on the country, the city. They have different perceptions, for example, of the time used for transportation, and this is also, in my view, quite a relevant point. Another point is the available technology. We've seen in the previous presentation, big data, open data, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, all these bring tools of paramount importance for the future of mobility. Another issue we have to have in mind when we talk about mobility are the problems of implementation. I mean, this is really an issue. Implementing the already designed or discussed policies, harmonizing conflicting interests is something of a major importance. And all of this in an environment of sustainability, of social awareness that makes mobility one of the most interesting topics to be discussed and to research in. Let me now pass to introduce you the different speakers that we have this afternoon. First of all, the first on my left is Muhammad Asim Khan, the mayor of Peshawar. He will make the first presentation. Then we will move to Dr. Amit Kumar Jain, Senior Divisional Operation Manager for the Indian Railways in New Delhi. And he will be presenting, introducing us how to easing congestion in metro trains for smart mobility, a case study of Delhi Metro. Then we will have the presentation of Mr. Ignasi Vilajosana, the CEO of World Sensing here in Barcelona, that will bring us a presentation labeled Third-Party Providers, How Cities Can Regain Control of Their Mobility Network. And last but not least, we have with us Mr. Álvaro Urec, Innovation Manager of Alstom, and he will be talking about solving the riddle of mobility for today and tomorrow. So let me first give the floor to the Mayor of Peshawar for his presentation.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Asim Khan, and I'm mayor of a city named Peshawar. Peshawar is in Pakistan, and Peshawar has a population of 4.3 million people, and it has a 70 square kilometer of area around that of area. And as it's my third year in my office as mayor, as as I looked into the area and asked the population, the citizens, that what are the main problems. So the things that came to me directly, one of them was the mobility and the transport system of my city. Almost 2 million cars, motorcycles, and all the vehicles come to Peshawar in the city, as it's the capital of our province. Or neighboring districts come to different you can say business, for their jobs, and they go back to their cities. So the main problem was of transportation, mobility, and the second was of the pollution. As unfortunately it has the sixth most polluted environment in the city. One of the causes was of the vehicles that just got into traffic congestions and that kind of problems. So I as mayor and provincial government had a program for smart mobility, and we made a transport system that is basically a bus rapid transport system. It covers all the around 70 kilometers of our population area, and we built that system, and it's called the gold standard system. And first of all, we tried to figure out that what should be the means of communication and what is the means of mobility, and it would be our priority. So the first thing that comes to your mind is your feet. So we planned different kinds of project for the pedestrians within our city. And by the way, I should tell you, Peshawar is the most, you can say, ancient city in that region, living city, 2,500 years old living city in our region. So we attract a lot of tourists or local tourists and some of international tourists. We have a lot of history over there. So within that historic area, we build pedestrian tracks, different kind of pedestrian tracks. And after that, a cycling track all over the corridor, all over the city. So we rehabilitated all that, and now that BRT system is in the completion, almost 90% of the work has been done, and will be soon floating or tenders for the, you can say, the installation of all the AI system. So I'm talking in context of our area, as I know here the problems of this area are different. So we are doing a lot of things for that. And as I want to discuss this as my case study, so we also incorporated the existing transport system into that, and there were 1,200 buses on that track. So we negotiated with them, bought all these buses from them, and gives these people the job and stakes in our local system or in our transport system. So I wanted to present this as case study of my city, and thank you.
Thank you very much, and let's now move to the presentation of Dr. Amit Kumar Jain.
Thank you. Yeah. So first I would like to thank you, the organizers of the Smart City World Expo, for inviting me. It is an honor for me. Good afternoon, everybody. My presentation is on easing congestion in the metro systems. For a smart city, smart mobility is an integral part of the smart city. And for smart mobility, we need an effective transportation system, which is a public transportation system. But what happens when this public transportation system becomes congested? It becomes overcrowded, and it is no more attractive to the passengers. So people don't move to public transportation system. That is the situation that we are facing in Delhi. So my presentation is a kind of case study on Delhi Metro, how we are able to control the congestion in the peak hours in metro systems. Delhi Metro is one of the largest metro systems in the world, among top 10. Network length 314 kilometers, 229 stations, 9 lines, ridership 2.8 million passengers per hour. These are basic statistics. This is the layout of the Delhi Metro, 9 lines. This is the kind of congestion that we are facing in Delhi Metro, highly congested. More than 8 passengers per square meter in peak hours. It is difficult to enter into the metro in the peak hour. This is kind of variation that we see in metro. In the morning, there are 2 distinct peaks, morning peak and evening peak. In morning peak, traffic is 55,000 passengers per hour per direction. Initially, we started with supply side measures, that is to increase number of trains, increasing the length of the train to increase the supply. But problem with the supply side measures is they are limited by the design capacity of the system. We cannot increase the supply beyond the design capacity without substantial capital investment. So they are the short-lived measures. So we have now moved on to demand management technologies, which is to control the demand itself. Demand management technologies are very famous, very popular in road sectors. Like we have electronic road pricing in Singapore, congestion pricing, car sharing, promotion of the public transportation, controlling the registration of the vehicles. These are all very popular in the road sector, but somehow demand management techniques have not been picked up in metro railways. Delhi Metro has done a remarkable job in this area. First is time-based pricing that Delhi Metro has introduced in May 2017. 20% discount is being offered if a person travels in the non-peak hours. And the result is remarkable. You see, the peak hour demand has come down from 55,000 to 38,000. And non-peak hour demand has also come down because fares have increased, but the reduction in peak hour demand is much higher as compared to the reduction in the non-peak hours. Here I propose a system of time-based pricing, dynamic time-based pricing, which may be based on a fare index. Like if level of service measures the level of congestion in the train. If level of congestion is very high, let us say F, then the fares may automatically increase as per the fare index, which I proposed 150. So for F, fare of F is if level of service is F, the fares may automatically increase by 1.5 times, 1.5 times the normal one. And if congestion is not there, let us say level of service is B, the fares may be just 0.7 times of the normal fare. And this can be done on 15-minute basis and by automatic fare collection system. So this is one of the solutions that I propose for smart mobility, which is based on metro railways. Another is network design. Initially, when metros are designed, they are designed linearly. Initially, the MRC, this is radial network. The MRC has also gone for the radial network initially. In up to phase 2, there were 9 interchange stations only. Now we are going for the circular network. This was the initial network, phase 1 and phase 2. Now in phase 3, we are connecting these circular lines to give more opportunities to transfer. And in this way, the demand is distributed along the network as well as time. So time and space distribution of demand happens. This is phase 3 network of Delhi Metro. And as a result of this circular network, the demand in the city center has come down substantially. If you see Rajiv Chowk at the top, top left corner, the demand, the ridership in peak hour in the day used to be 3.7 lakh, which is 0.37 million passengers per day, which has come down to 0.26 million per day. So this kind of demand reduction has been there after development of the circular network. If there are parallel lines, we are going for promoting the non-congested routes. Like in this case, there are 2 lines connecting 2 origin and destination stations. Earlier, the airport line was not being used because the fares were high. We reduced the fare of the airport line by 50%, and which has resulted into transferring of passengers from the congested blue line to orange line. And there has been 10% reduction in the demand on the blue line. Another one is augmenting capacity in non-peak hours. If you want people to travel in non-peak hours, there should be adequate capacity available in the non-peak hours. We have increased number of trains in non-peak hours. This may be a supply-side measure, but it has improved ridership in the non-peak hours, and it has also helped in transferring people from the peak hour to non-peak hours. Then rationalization of the feeder routes. Delhi Metro is also providing feeder buses at number of stations. So while deciding which bus should connect which station, we also take into account the congestion level at the station. And we try to connect stations which are less congested. So that also distributes demand over less congested stations. Then integration with other modes of transportation, which is very important for distributing demand across multiple modes of transportation. The different modes in a city are complementary to each other. They should not compete with each other. So we have gone for 3 types of integration with other modes. One is physical integration, that is integration at the station area. Informational integration, exchange of the information about all the modes of transportation. And fare integration, that is using one fare product for all modes of transportation. So we have gone for common mobility card. We are doing physical integration with the help of UTPAC, which is an agency involved in designing a multi-modal transportation system, multi-modal hubs, stations, and information integration. These are some of the measures which Delhi Metro has adopted. Other transport demand measurement measures which Delhi Metro could not adopt, but these are under the control of government, like adoption of mixed land use and creating a polycentric city. So there, conventionally, city has one city center, and all the activities are concentrated at one center. So as a result, everybody moves towards the center. So we can go for a polycentric city to distribute the demand across the space in a city. We should also explore and encourage the concept of work from home, so that people need not come. We need to we need to control the demand. If people are working from home, they need not come to the office, they need not come to the institute, and they can easily work without traveling. Staggered office and school timings. We can have four timings, starting from 8:30 for one type of offices, 9 for second type of offices, 10 like that, and we can have different timings of the schools. So this will stagger the demand. Then bicycling, promoting bicycling, and then transportation, transit-oriented development. So time is up for me. I'll just conclude. So there, for managing the demand, we need to adopt some demand management measures, which are like differential fares, time-based fares, network design, going for the circular lines, capacity augmentation in the non-peak hours, rationalization for the feeder buses, connecting feeder buses to non-congested stations, integration with other modes, and promotion of the non-congested routes. And the combination of the supply-side measures and these demand-side measures would help in creating a smart mobility solution for a city. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Amit Kumar. And now let's give the floor to Mr. Ignasi Vilajosana.
Thank you. Can I use this? Okay, so I will talk about a very different topic, and it's something that we are experiencing every day in our cities, and if you go in other cities around the globe, you will see that this intermediation of mobility services is a reality, and it's happening much faster than what we expect. It's a ton of money being deployed for venture capital to make all these kind of new mobility services available globally, because they believe that this winner takes it all, and the Uber kind of approach is the reality. And I'm not sure if you know, I'm not sure if this is working, but if not, I will go here. But the reality is this one, no? That cities are flooded of a new plethora of private companies providing new mobility services. And you have a lot of examples with the scooters that is like on the top of our minds every day. But we also have the Uber, Grab, or the mopeds going around, bringing people in the cities. We have the e-sharing, the electrical bicycle or motorbike sharing. We have the bicycle sharing, and we have here one of the key challenges is what happens if you deploy too many of them and there's not the proper regulation in place. And if someone has been in China recently walking around Beijing or Shanghai, you could see pictures like you can take pictures like this. So that's one of the realities. I'm not sure if you know about the $1 vans, and these guys buying some multi-van type of vans and riding like in an Uber pool phase for $1 and kind of substituting the microbuses in areas where the buses don't get. So this is very popular in Texas, for example. Flix buses that they can move you around Europe. They can move you around Europe for €1 or €5. Okay, now it's working. Great. And there are three key challenges, no, that cities will face, and they believe they are facing the worst scenario now, but the biggest challenge they will be facing is when you look at the curve, the elastic demand, no? The elasticity demand. When you look at the typical curves for transportation, a 10% decrease on pricing on mobility, it's about 4% increase on demand. While when you look at these kind of mobility services, they are bringing prices like 50% down, which is increasing the demand 150%. So what we are really seeing is like that all these new plethora of mobility services, they will bring a lot of new people moving around the city, no? And this is not about only like trying to regulate in the future, is that you will have like kids on mopeds going at 30 kilometers per hour on the curbside, an executive going on the curbside at 30 kilometers per hour with a scooter, and you have a lot of new people. And when the autonomous vehicles comes, this will be exaggerated and even much worse, because I can buy 100 cars and have them around. So the discussion will not be about congestion. It will be how much would you be paying to occupy this specific piece of the road. So this is a completely game changer situation. No, it's a completely change in the, I'm not sure if it works. And what's happening on the other side of the table? So what are the tools that cities have today to manage all of that? And when you look at a typical control room, a center of operations in a city, you have cameras, you have traffic light controllers, etc. But they don't have any kind of connection to the availability of these services, any kind of information on how they are providing these services, where are the bicycles, how are the bicycles are being deployed, are they compliant with the regulations? So they have no clue on what's going on, no? Is this changing? Maybe not. Okay, sorry. Then cities work in silos, no? They have a lack of communication between city departments. So some departments might have the information, some others they will keep the maintenance, so there's a real lack. And they are struggling to connect to third parties, not because they don't have the willingness to do it or the budgets to do it. It's more because they don't have the right technology, so they depend on providers that normally provide like locking in systems, like very closed systems, so they don't have the flexibility to integrate with third-party solutions, no? So there's no control on these situations, and what we have seen, let me see if it moves, that some cities are taking some interesting approaches to solve the problem, no? And they are deploying technologies that they help them to become a new kind of observer of the situation, no? Like to get information of all the existing subsystems that exist in the city and all the different services that are being deployed. They capture that information, they can monitor the services, they can then predict, act, and engage with the citizens, no? Communicate with the citizens, no? We are working in some of these cities, no? We deployed our technology, it's called One Mind. It's a platform that is aggregating all the different providers, all the different sources of information that are relevant for a city to take decisions very quickly. And we did that in a very nice project, in a very nice initiative, which is in Vietnam, which is transforming all their country in a digital nation. And they understood that very quickly, because if you go there, mobility services are crucial for their economic development. They have very clear understanding that people move in mopeds and use Grab and use Uber and use many other services because they cannot provide the public services as we did in Europe. No, we regulated, we build the capacity, we build, but they don't have the time. They are evolving very quickly. So they took a very different approach, and they took the approach to digitize all these services, to collect all the data that is coming from these private operators, put it together in their control rooms, make it available to the decision makings, and don't interfere with the operation of this public service, but on the other side, let them operate in exchange of the data they are capturing. So they are managing, and then incentivize through subsidized licensing. Then they have incentives to deploy in areas that they cannot deploy. No? And we have seen other examples in kind of neighborhoods in Canada, for example, that they don't have the capacity to build a public service, so they subsidize Uber or someone else to deploy their private service and to combine with the public services, no, to complete the offering. No? And very, very importantly, from all these companies that are racing, to deploy as many as mopeds or scooters or like whatever service or bicycles as possible, few will be the winners. Only few of them will be the winners. And then what will happen with all the maintenance and the servicing of all the remainings, of all the bicycles that are broken? Who can guarantee the provisioning of these services? And this has to be at least under control from the public administration, so they can keep providing the public service, because I think that public service, the title that taxis in Barcelona, for example, have the SP means something, but And I don't think that is enough to replace the SP sign with a reward, with a rewarding system as Uber, no? That you give 5 stars. No? It's a reputational system that's very good for the quality of services, and I think that public sector should learn about that. But on the other side, on the citizen side, I think that we need administrations to be ready to control the deployment of all of these solutions. So that's our learnings. I think that Vietnam is a great example of success in this scenario. And I think that the technological tools are ready to do it. No, it's more on the willingness to do it and the leadership to do it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. And now, Álvaro Rech, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Julio. Good afternoon, everyone. For me, it's a pleasure because I've been coming to Smart City Congress for a number of years, and it's a real pleasure to be here again, trying to present to you what from Alstom we're doing for smart mobility. Let's see if it works for me. Yes, okay. So the title of my presentation is Solving the Riddle of Mobility. And mobility for the cities is a great issue now because it's very simple to explain. You need to keep the city moving, but it's very, very complex to solve. I'm thinking about an example in history, in ancient history, or maybe legend. It's the example of the Gordian knot and Alexander the Great. I assume many of you know, well, I see many faces a little sleepy, so who knows about the Gordian knot? Show of hands. Not many people? Okay. Well, the story goes that there was this cart tied with a very, very complex knot. Whoever was able to untie the knot will become the ruler of Asia. And there comes Alexander, and with 300 BC solution, he cuts the knot, he unties it, and he wins Asia after that. Of course, that fortunately, we're not using that type of solution now. We can do different things, but there's a learning in the approach of Alexander. The learning is that he did not go to the knot and started looking at the little threads going one way and the other and trying to push and move. He looked at the knot as a whole thing, as a whole, trying to provide a solution for everything. And this is what we have in mind when we say we would like to orchestrate mobility, orchestrating mobility, looking at it as a whole. And for this, we are proposing a tool, a solution, Mastria. I introduced this last year. I don't have the time to go into detail. We have the Alstom booth right outside the conference room, so if you're interested, please come, and we will be able to answer anything you need. We have a number of functions, because it's a modular approach, from data ingestion to visualization, analytics, simulation, and of course, orchestration, which will allow you to have integrated view, to do KPIs, to help you in decision making, adapt demand to supply, and a number of things. But this afternoon, I want to explain what we are doing in practical cases. So we're doing a number of proof of concepts. I'm going to focus on in the two that are currently running full force, which is Paris and Florence. So this is a view of Paris, the area of La Défense. Here we're working with RATP, the System X Labs, and Cosmotech. This is a view of the Mastria HMI. So you can see the lines, the vehicles. This is in this proof of concept, and we're mainly focusing on public transport. And if there's an incident, it will pop up and give you some recommendations and whatever. But the challenges to solve is to improve the efficiency of the network, simulate how small changes can affect the whole thing, because you know the mobility, it's in the tip of a balance. If you move something one way or the other, it gets much better or much worse. and of course evaluate dynamic replanning, trying to move assets from one place to the other. We use data ingestion function. We have a big data platform to ingest the open data, GTFS and everything, and data from operators. Simulation, what-if scenarios, predictive analytics, a number of things. Okay. The other example is in Tuscany, the city of Florence. Again, this is a view of Mastria. Here it's a little bit different. They want to do supervision, multimodal supervision. They want to see how people flow within the hubs to facilitate the modal shift, how people move inside this transport hub. And they have a specific problem with tourists because the touristic buses feed the city, and it's a very complicated issue because they need to go to a specific parking at the time, the traffic, and what we want to do in the project is to coordinate everything, even with the tram. So there's an orchestration, as I was saying. So the bus knows where they need to go to a specific parking that may change because the tram is going to be there when the bus arrives, and everything becomes more efficient, more coordinated, and more orchestrated. So this is basically, in Mastria, of course, different functions, data ingestion, visualization. You can change the way you see and customize everything according to your needs, and recommendations for orchestration. We use the orchestration analogy because it's not actually someone operating the means of transport, but it's someone advising and recommending how everything should link together so everything sounds well when it's operated together. So we have written our thoughts on this orchestration, orchestrating future mobility, in a white paper we published a couple of months ago. There's the link. You can download it. We also have paper copies at the stand for you. If you're interested, please take one. And there's some Alstom experts and other external experts that you can read our thoughts about it. And last but not least, we've brought a version, well, that's me. We've brought a version of Mastria, but it's built like a game. So you can come and try. You will be the operator. The city will start throwing at you all the different problems like traffic jam or there's a flood or whatever, and you need to decide. And depending on your decisions, citizen satisfaction would go up or down. And you need to keep it up, of course. If it goes down, you lose. So it's there, please. It's on your way out. You can see it. And if you want more information about Mastria or anything, please do not hesitate to ask in the Q&A or afterwards. So that's for me. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much to all of you. You have stick to the time in a way as precise as the trains. So now we have time for Q&A. Well, I have a question. It's not directed specifically to any of you, so you can pick it as you want. Okay. The first question is: do urban mobility systems like biking here in Barcelona, maybe I look at you, and in other cities help decongestion in conventional means of transportation?
I use it from time to time. No, people is using, so I'm sure that it helps.
Yeah, it certainly helps because it reduces the demand on the metro system. So the short distance travels can be easily done by the bicycles, and which is far more convenient also. So it certainly reduces the demand and congestion in the metro systems.
How are things in Peshawar with biking?
Yeah, I think biking is also a good alternative for your own car, for your bike, for metros. As a lot of cities have tried this, biking and scooter could be an alternative, and I think that could ease your load on the mass transits and public transports.
And we have here another question. How can the city increase the capacity of the public transportation system and reduce the amount of private vehicles in urban areas? This is addressed to the mayors of all the cities of the world, this question. So,
I'm not a
who
mayor.
picks this one?
I'm not a mayor. Well, I think that's exactly what I was trying to explain. It's a very complex problem because we need to keep in mind many different aspects. And the first one I always talk about is convenience, because you can offer many things, you can improve the system, but if it's not convenient for the passenger, then it's difficult to do that. So because if we could, we would like to leave our home in something and arrive to where we're going. And up to now, especially in mid distances, that's the car. And the car is a big machine, transporting most of the time just one person, moving a lot of iron, and just to move 75 kilos, well, more for me, of a person. So how can this be improved? Well, offering solutions that are convenient to people's needs. Thinking about first mile, last mile, timing, coordinating how things are done. Because if you take a bus and then you need to wait for half an hour to get the next bus to do your trip, then that's not convenient. Because maybe it's cold, it's raining, or so there's lots of things. I think we should go step by step, improving things, so that to start the snowball running, and eventually I'm convinced we will succeed.
Let me elaborate a little bit more in this issue. Some cities, we have the case of London or the case of Singapore, and that they decided, and maybe to some extent the case of India with different fares for peak hours and non-peak hours. So what do you think about these two strategies of, charging a fee or setting charges in order to avoid people to use the car to get into the cities, or just banning the car, setting prohibition and then not letting cars get into it? Do you think should we use an economic design system with different prices for the economies, the diseconomies, and that they impose, or should just say, well, the center of the city is closed to private vehicles, or you cannot circulate at that certain hours? What do you think about these two strategies?
Well, I think that if you have a right plan to propose alternative, the second is the best. So if you close the traffic, but then you need to offer the capacity to move to the people. And the challenge is that this is not that straightforward, because it's clear, no, the role of the trains as a mass transportation element, and I think it's central, and even with the autonomous vehicle, it will become more central for commuting, etc. But then when it comes to the last mile, so we use Uber, and if you look, I was talking to the CTO of the city of San Francisco a few weeks ago, and he was explaining me that they did a study with Uber, and they were analyzing the patterns of motion of people before and after the deployment of Uber, like the expansion of Uber. And before there were only 5 patterns of movement detected, and now there are 38. So this means that, meaning that they are very short rides that they were not happening and people were walking. So Uber is starting to substitute walking. No? Then I mean, why this is happening? Because I agree completely with you, because it's very convenient. Then as soon as I get the warranty that I leave my home, I take an Uber because it's picking me up with a very nice car, that it's 5 stars, etc. It drops me into the door of a train. I take a train, it gets on time, and I get another car at the door, and I go wherever, or a moped, or that's for me a winning solution. But it's not that easy to implement.
I think along with all these solutions, we need to offer more alternative to the people. So, and we also need to work on controlling the demand. Why do we need to travel actually? Can we control this demand for travel? Can we work from home? Can we do our courses from home? Why do we need to actually travel? Apart from leisure, I should think that the future lies in reducing the mobility, reducing the need for travel. So that will help in controlling the demand and easing the congestion.
I think there is no just simple answer for every city. Every city's problem is unique, and there needs to be their solution needs also be creative. In our city, we have a installed system. Somewhere we control the transport, so needs to be pedestrianized. In cities, the public transport needs to be convenient to the people. If you want to be successful, the public transport should be convenient. At the same time, in one of our cities, the government gives a lot of subsidy. Like you can travel to one side of another city. It's a very big city, Lahore, with 20 cents of a ticket. So there needs to be efficiency in terms of money. And at the same time, the private sector needs to be creative. In Lahore, the Uber has a bike service that you can travel by Uber's bike from one city to another. It's very cheap, as the Uber is everywhere. So the cities need to be creative. I think the government and at the same time the private sector needs to be creative. Somewhere you need to enforce the law and pedestrianize, and somewhere you need to produce a very convenient system.
Yes, I think the issue of congestion charges and things like that, it's the old solution. It's the old economic principle that scarce goods, you raise the price. So and it works, and it works. But I think we need to move forward with that, because it works depending on where you look. Because if you have a charging for a region, then everything gets crammed around that region. So what happens with the people that just get there and leave the car, and then it's a nightmare. So I think we should look for other type of solutions as convenient and that work more for the benefit of the people. And I agree with your point. I think the scenario of the no mobility is a scenario, maybe not for now, but in 20 or 25 years time frame, I think it's going to be an issue. Although probably we would need to move less people but more goods, because people will not move, but we need to take the goods to the people, as it's happening now. So I don't know exactly what's going to be happening. But
I think with coming up of these 3D printers, movement of goods will also come down. Anything can be printed at home.
Yeah, that could be, yeah.
Let me ask you and pose another question. Now I don't know if you all agree that we are all going electric in the cities, so that the future is public electric buses, electric cars, electric motorbikes, and it is a sort of explosion of electric vehicles. So what do you think is needed for that? Because I mean, you get into a parking lot, or you go into the parking of your house, and it's really hard to find a plug. I mean, so what do you think should be done by municipalities, or what sort of plans, or how should they work in order to handle this electric wall that is coming in the mobility of the urban life?
Well, I think that it's like everything. I agree very much with the electric drive of everything. But again, it's an issue of trying to solve one thing without solving the other, because networks and power grid and everything are not prepared for everyone charging their vehicle at night. But maybe it's because we shouldn't have so many vehicles. If we didn't have so many vehicles, that wouldn't be a problem, or we use public transport, or so everything needs to be done in a coordinated way, because if suddenly all cities forbid internal combustion engine cars and we all buy electric cars, I don't know what's really going to be happening, because there's no power to do that, and the batteries are not well advanced to do that. So I don't know. I'm very happy that the electric is coming, but I really don't know what's going to be happening in 20 years. We don't know the technology is going to be. It's changing so fast that maybe what we now believe it's the solution, which are the battery electric cars, is not going to be the solution in 10 to 20 years. So we'll see. We improve every year, so we'll see where we go.
Maybe it's more the way we live, no? And it's because electrification is coming, but then probably what will change is the use of the car, and then that we will that the car will be an integral part of our homes as an element. And when the electrifications and the distributed generation happens, that will be a reality, because it makes a lot of sense. But the point is that when you want to commute, you might be using either the train or either the car or the hybrid car or whatever. But when you move in the city, maybe we don't need a car as what we understand now it is a car. And we need something else that is like an electric thing that moves around, that moves us, and maybe it's autonomous, and then we just get at the door and it picks us and moves us around. So we will buy the right to move instead of buy a car, but we will probably own a car as a part of our house, and we will use it when we don't want to commute through a train.
And we push a button and it applies, and we keep it in our pocket. So because if we have an electric car and we have to park it in a city, we are in the same mess again. So I think it's very interesting. Transport is a very interesting industry to be working on, and energy is an extremely interesting. So the mix of both, I think there's going to be a lot of very interesting things coming in the future.
Any questions from the audience, apart from those that we have handled in the iPad? If you want to make any question, raise your hand. I give you the mic, and everything is pretty cloudy, and so. Well, I think that we have almost done, and let me pass the mic to Carles Casas for the wrap-up of this session. And first of all, well, thank you very much to our four speakers who have made an outstanding performance in this afternoon.
You can go down. Well, I'll just give you here briefly 4 or 5 minutes max, just to wrap up a little bit what we heard about today. I don't know you, but when I was starting this session, thinking about the way we pay for future mobility, probably I expected some innovation in the terms of classical solutions, technological solutions, maybe as we saw in this morning session, volocopters, so on. And then our speakers, our wise speakers that we were privileged to have here, somehow landed it to reality, real issues, real mobility problems that we are facing. From our first speakers, we had this vision from the governmental and public companies and public transport operators. We had this vision. We had also the vision of suppliers, solution suppliers. And as Mr. Khan from Peshawar landed, we have to start thinking about basic mobility, walking, Walking is basic mobility. The future of mobility is still by foot. We'll walk, I hope. And we have to think cities about that. We had all this review from the first and last mile, how we have to integrate things, a vision that Mr. Font provided on how a classical company is thinking to develop into a different, completely different company, or the approach from Columbus with their operating system, smart operating system for the city, integrating everything. And that's part of the vision I think we keep here. Or Dr. Amit Kumar with these solutions on not only on the provision of service, but also the demand that we have to manage in order to have clever systems. I was also quite shocked, or it was the view that Mr. Villajuana provided, saying, okay, all these new mobility services, they are generating new mobility. It's not only that we are providing solutions for existing mobility, but we are also inducting new mobility with all these services. And that gives us to probably the main issue, or the main problem in our cities. The scarcity of public space. And this reminds me of a professor I had when I was a student. He said, in some cultures or some countries, we assume that we can use the streets for transportation quite freely, even we can park our cars. But we don't do that with our washing machine. We don't park our washing machine in the street, and we just plug it and we use it freely. No, we do that with the car. We have assumed that we can do that with the car, but only with the cars. And that's an assumption. It's a cultural thing that probably will have to change, and we are already changing. All these mobility providers, shared mobility providers, they have their good things, their bad things, but they are using public space, which is a scarce resource. And as they are anecdotic, they are okay. Once they become massive, there's a problem. And that brings us to what I think is one of the main lessons I take home today. It's that the future is not in technology itself, it's not in transportation, it's in management. We have to manage this complexity that we've been shown here. As you said, there are different cases everywhere. There are no silver bullets. There are no solutions that suit every need. But what's common is the complexity. We cannot foresee the future. There's going to be disruptive changes in the future. That's for sure. We don't know which word will be there. Disruptive changes in technology, but also in social behavior. I may not agree to this no mobility scenario that was announced. I think we were talking about that a few years ago also with all the cyber meetings and so on, but the reality is that despite all the technology, we move now more than ever, and we need to meet face to face. So, okay, probably we can work from home, but then we'll move a lot while working, perhaps. So mobility is not decreasing, it's increasing despite everything. So well, we can talk about that later. But management is the key. And in this management, all partners have a crucial role to play. I said that we had today this comprehensive view of mobility. We had, as I said, public authorities. We had operations, the view from the operator, the crowded trains in Delhi, or all Ferrocarrils de la Generalitat vision. We also had solution providers, both Alstom and sensoring. And the client was not here, but was like present everywhere. And not client. That's a good thing. We almost did not talk about passengers anymore. We are talking about mobility and citizens, that they require mobility as one of the services they require to live in a city and develop their activities in the city. So, and I think that's the change of mind that we are seeing in these days. We will not longer be talking about passengers. We'll be talking about citizens and service provision. And that's probably the future of way to approach it. And to do that efficiently, we need management. And management that requires regulations, but that requires technological solutions, integration of information, acquiring the information and processing it, it's a key issue. And finally, in this situation, we need to adapt. And that's the only way we are going to survive this situation. And that's all that's as old as biology. In order to survive, we'll need to adapt, and that is going to be the key issue. So my name is Carles Casas. It's been a pleasure to be your host here, to have you here, an honor for me. And please give a final applause to our speakers to finish the session today.